Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, I am going to start our second video lecture for grade 7 for the subject biology, chapter number 7, name living things and their environment, topic the nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle. Dear students, first of all, we will do the definition of nitrogen cycle. It is defined as the series of processes by which nitrogen and its compounds are interconverted in the environment and in living organisms, including nitrogen fixation and decomposition. Coming towards its explanation, this definition means that there are some processes by which nitrogen and its compounds are changing from one form to another form, and then they are converted again and return back to its first one form through some processes in which some bacteria are also involved, and these nitrogen compounds are not acceptable by the way it is present in the atmosphere, and that's why it has to change its form that is easily acceptable by the living organisms. This process is done through some steps which we will discuss one by one. The nitrogen cycle consists of the following 5 steps. Number 1, nitrogen fixation. Number 2, nitrogen assimilation. Number 3, ammonification. Number 4, nitrification. Number 5, denitrification. Starting the steps of nitrogen cycle. Step number 1, nitrogen fixation. This step is characterized by the conversion of atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia. Bacteria like Azobacter and Rhizobium have a major role in this process. It means that in this process, the free atmospheric nitrogen is converted into ammonia. Why it has to be changed into ammonia? Just because that the free atmospheric nitrogen is not acceptable by the living organisms, and that's why some bacterias named Azobacter and Rhizobium play a role to change it into ammonia, and then it can be easily acceptable by the living organisms, and they can use it for their nourishment. Now, the second step is assimilation. Once the nitrogen has been fixed in the soil, plants can absorb nitrogen through their roots. As we discussed in the first step, that the free atmospheric nitrogen is changed into an acceptable form which the plants or other living bodies can absorb. So this is now the acceptable form for the plants, and the plants can now take this nitrogen through their roots, and it can easily be absorbed through its roots. It is taken up by the plant for its further nourishment. Now, step number 3, ammonification. This is another process by which ammonia can be generated. Organic remains of plants and animals are broken down in the soil by some bacteria to release ammonia into soil. It means that it is another way by which ammonia can be generated. Generated means that it can be produced. When plants and animals die, the microorganisms which are present in the environment, they attack these dead bodies of plants and animals and start eating them up, and thus they return back the ammonia to soil. Now, step number 4, nitrification. This occurs in 2 steps. In first step, ammonia is converted into nitrates. The bacteria nitrosomonas and nitrococcus present in the soil converts ammonia into nitrites, and bacterium nitrobacter convert nitrites into nitrates. The word nitrification means formation of nitrates. As we discussed earlier, that some bacteria are involved in generation of ammonia. Similarly, there are some bacteria which are involved in making of nitrates, but here it is done through 2 steps. In step number 1, the nitrosomonas and nitrococcus bacteria present in soil converts ammonia into nitrites. As we know that we gained ammonia in the 3rd step. Now that ammonia has to be changed into nitrites, and bacterium nitrobacter convert nitrites into nitrates. So all these steps and all these processes are interconvertible, and they are changing and interconverting its forms through the involvement of some bacteria. Step number 5, denitrification. It is the reverse of nitrification that occurs in deep layers of soil where bacteria convert nitrates back to nitrogen. If we look at the word of denitrification, D means re or again. Nitrification we explained earlier, in which the nitrates were converted. Now it is the reverse process of nitrification. So what can be the reverse of nitrification? If you see in the nitrification process, the ammonia were converted into nitrites and nitrates. If we reverse it, so the nitrates are again converted into nitrogen, and this is done by the denitrifying bacteria which are present in the deep layers of soil. Step number 5, denitrification. It is the reverse of nitrification that occurs in deep layers of soil where bacteria convert nitrates back to nitrogen. If we look at the word of denitrification, D means re or again. Nitrification we explained earlier, in which the nitrates were converted. Now it is the reverse process of nitrification. So what can be the reverse of nitrification? If you see, in the nitrification process, the ammonia were converted into nitrites and nitrates. If we reverse it, so the nitrates are again converted into nitrogen, and this is done by the denitrifying bacteria which are present in the deep layers of soil. The importance of nitrogen cycle is nitrogen cycle helps bring in the free nitrogen from air into biochemical process in plants and then animals. It is the only cycle through which free atmospheric nitrogen is converted into acceptable form for plants and animals, and then it is used for its biochemical processes. Point number 2. Plants need nitrogen to synthesize chlorophyll. As we know that chlorophyll is the green pigment of plant through which it prepares its food through photosynthesis, and this important pigment is made through nitrogen. So you can guess that how much nitrogen is important for the plants. Point number 3 is, during ammonification, bacteria help to degrade dead plant and animal matter. This naturally clean up the environment. In many places, most plants and animals die and they are lying on the ground on which the bacteria which are present in the environment, they attack on those dead bodies and thus help to clean environment, which comes through the process of ammonification. So we can guess that how much the nitrogen cycle helps in cleaning up our environment and making our environment germs free, because if these dead bodies are lying on the ground for much of the time, so it creates foul smell and creates germs, worms. So the nitrogen cycle help to avoid all those dirt and keep us safe from all those diseases which can come from those dead bodies. Point number 4 is, due to nitrogen cycle, nitrates and nitrites are released into soil, which help to make soil rich with nutrients. This cycle releases the essential ammonia to soil, which make the soil nutrient rich. Now the diagram of nitrogen cycle. In the nitrogen cycle diagram, you can see that the free atmospheric nitrogen comes to the soil. This nitrogen is converted into chemical. It become chemical. How does it become chemical? The nitrogen present in the environment, it mixes with the oxygen just because of the natural lightning, and due to rain it comes to the soil in the form of nitrates. When it comes to soil, it is then converted into another forms, and it revolves around all the living bodies and is converting and changing its form for the living bodies to be acceptable for them and to be used by them for their nourishment.